All right, chaps, your code words are cabbage crates over the Bryony. We're coming in low over Shepherd's Bush, then straight over White City. You'll see the open doors, and as soon as you see the open doors, I'm going to break off. You fly over the top, I'm going straight in through the doors, all right? Tricky landing, but I'm sure we can do it. Good luck, chaps. Hello, and welcome to Tuesdays This Morning. We're celebrating one of the nation's most iconic planes today, as you can see. We have an actual Spitfire in the studio.
Oh, my goodness me, Phil, that's one of my favourite things you have ever done. My favourite, break off. Wonderful stuff. Can you believe it? We have a Spitfire in the studio. With the 75th anniversary of D-Day this week, we are joined by John Nichol this morning, a former RAF navigator who has written a book full of stories about this iconic plane. Why is it so iconic? It truly is a symbol of hope. The wingspan, 36 feet and 10 inches. The length is 31 feet. It took 2 hours to get this into the studio, and it just about fits. The propeller itself is 10 foot long. It weighs 2,630 kilograms. And this version of the Spitfire could travel at 408 miles per hour. I mean, is your heart going?
That was one of the most exciting things I've ever done.
It really suits you.
Yeah.
You like, that's you.
You reckon?
Yeah, it really suits you.
We're going to be hearing from John very shortly and revealing our own very surprising connection to the Spitfire.
It's not that you've got a Spitfire bag, is it?
I have got a Spitfire.
But that's not it.
I have.
And John is here now, and good morning to you.
Morning.
And it is such a symbol of Britishness and hope. I mean, even having it here in the studio, so many people have come in this morning just to take a look and just
It looks amazing.
Doesn't it?
When R.J. Mitchell designed this, he wanted something to look like a bird. All of the other previous aircrafts in the 30s had looked like something with two wings stuck on them,
right.
You know, biplanes. He wanted something that would look like a bird and fly like a bird. And this looks stunning. And this is one. Can you imagine over the D-Day beaches or in the skies during the Battle of Britain, 100, 300, 500 of these machines?
Hello.
Amazing. Well, you've flown one, Phil, haven't you?
Well, that was one of the most special moments of my life when I got to fly in a Spitfire and do the barrel rolls, and then I actually had a go myself. But what was extraordinary was the feeling you get, the chills you get when you get into it, the sound inside, and knowing that you were in the seat. Oh, so excited. But it almost brought me to tears when I first got in. You're thinking, they were 18 and 19 years old when
they were children. They were children when they were flying. You know, if you certainly go to the Battle of Britain and then onwards towards the D-Day beaches, they were kids. They were 19 and 20, 21 flying these things, and they still. So I still speak to some of the people who I wrote the stories about for the book, and I still speak to the last surviving chap, and he still talks about the absolute awe that he has still getting into a Spitfire aged 97.
Yes. Well, he's planning on getting in on his 100th birthday.
He flew last year for RAF 100. Yeah. He flew a Spitfire for that, and he's got it booked for his 100th birthday in a couple of years' time. But it's just it looks so perfect. It's an astonishing machine.
There were, I think it was something like 23,000 made between 36 and 46. They changed a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a lot quicker.
The Mark 1, which was the first one that first started flying in the Battle of Britain, was quite a basic machine, and they thought that would be the end. They thought they would go on and develop other completely different aircraft. But it was so successful that towards the end of the war, they got onto the Mark 47, which was the naval version with folding wings that went onto an aircraft carrier, a Seafire, and it just developed through the war. War it's a terrible thing to say, but it's a great advancer of technology. And so you have the technology, but then the people who flew them, the men and the women, were the same people. They were just young men and women who wanted to defend our country, coming from all over the world.
And you mentioned the women. There were 8 women that flew the Spitfires in about 1938, weren't there?
Yeah, there was a number of women in the Air Transport Auxiliary, and I interviewed 3 of them. Sadly, again, all of these people have now gone since I started interviewing them 2 years ago. And they came from ordinary backgrounds. They weren't university people or posh people, for want of a better expression. Women were breaking the glass ceiling before a glass ceiling had been invented.
Yeah.
They were coming from their homes and learning to fly, and they were delivering the aircraft. And I spoke to one who was in a Spitfire looking down onto the channel. She was delivering another aircraft on D-Day, and she looked at all of these ships going over and all of the tanks landing, and she said, down there, my friends, because she obviously had lots of friends in the military, were heading towards death, and I didn't know who would survive.
Yeah.
And it's those personal stories, getting away from that machinery.
We have a personal story here because, as we said at the beginning, it was designed by Reginald J. Mitchell, and we've got he was the great-great-uncle of Alice Mitchell, who is our researcher, and so you have a family connection, direct family connection to this plane.
So this is a bit emotional for me because just seeing that in such a huge space like this, lots of my family members have actually signed this plane.
Oh, wow.
Since then, I've just found my uncle, my grandpa, my nana have signed this exact plane. And yeah, so for RJ, that's been kind of a story that we've had in our family forever, something we talk about all the time. And he died 3 years before the war happened, so he never
saw it in operation.
How incredible it became.
He had, was it pancreatic cancer he had? And he never told anybody. He continued working because he knew how vital this machine was. And Alice, if it wasn't for your uncle, our world could be a really different... I mean, it's an amazing story that you can stand here and say, your great-great-uncle he was the father of this machine. I love that so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what is it from a pilot's point of view? Because you yourself have that career, and in fact, obviously, very famously was shot down. But it's said that you don't fly it; it flies you.
So I was a navigator. So anybody, I would always fly with a pilot when I was flying Tornadoes or something like that. But all of the people that I spoke to, they said almost the same as you said, Phil. You don't get into a Spitfire and fly it. You strap a Spitfire on.
Oh, right, wow.
And that's what it was like. No, almost everybody said that. It was like having a pair of wings and being an angel. It was so responsive. It is such almost... I spoke to a friend of mine who's a senior RAF officer who's flown something like 400 or 500 different types of aircraft. And he said if I could have one last flight in one aircraft before I die, I would choose to fly in a Spitfire because it is the most perfect flying machine. So 80 years on, it still retains that perfection.
And a vital role in D-Day.
Oh, absolutely.
But from all the way through the war, it advanced and developed. D-Day, it was over the beaches of D-Day. And this model is based on a model flown by Tony Cooper, an RAF Spitfire pilot. And this is Peter John III, which was his third Spitfire, named after his son. His son was born just a few days before D-Day, and he was over the D-Day beaches. In an aircraft like this. And he was looking down and he said, I could see the shells, I could see the smoke. And he said we felt quite distracted from it because we were being shot at and it was still dangerous where we were, but we could watch men dying on the beaches. And that sacrifice is really difficult to come to terms with.
And as you said, the saddest part is that only one of those men who's in your story is alive today, and that's why it's so important to document and keep record of those stories in a book like yours.
It's a really uncomfortable thing to say, Holly, but history's dying.
Yeah.
If you served at the end of the war and you're 20, you're going to be 94, 95 in that sort of era now. History's dying when they're shuffling along on their frames or in their wheelchairs. These are the people that flew these machines or served on the ground or stormed the D-Day beaches.
And saved us.
And they saved us, and we get annoyed with them now because they're in our way. We should look at some of these people and think what they did.
Can you hand me your book so I can hold it up for you? Because it's absolutely fantastic. And of course, and there, as you look at the book, and if you're lucky enough to hear one of these fly overhead, there is nothing like that.
Totally recognisable. Totally recognisable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely to see you.